Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full-time and have a collection of hundreds of monster ecology and fantasy world history videos on my channel. If you like what I do, please consider becoming a member of the channel by clicking the join button down below or backing me on Patreon, where you can get access to all of the scripts I write for these videos, and of course subscribing to me here as I upload at least twice a week. Returning to our remastered Giant series, we have learned that Titans are removed from the world of Toril, now residing in the upper planes of adventure. We know that Storm Giants are aloof and keep to themselves in the deepest of oceans or the highest of peaks. So who are the real day-to-day leaders of the giant species? Well, that would be the Cloud Giants. Cloud Giants are lower in the rank of ordning of their species, but they consider themselves the equal of Storm Giants at least. Storm Giants will tell you that such a belief is a result of the ignorant being less aware of their limitations. It is quite true that, although the most very intelligent by the standards of giants as a whole, Cloud Giants and Fog Giants are less intelligent than Storm Giants and only rarely much more intelligent than a smart human. But, of course, in every other respect, they are way beyond human capabilities. The average Cloud Giant male stands 24 feet or 7.3 meters tall and weighs 5.75 tons. Like all giants, the females are not as tall or heavy, about 2 feet shorter on average, about 2,000 pounds lighter. Adolescent Cloud Giants are around 18 feet tall, and the largest Cloud Giants stand up to a maximum of 26 feet tall or just under 8 meters. They have muscular human builds and handsome, well-defined features. Skin colours range from a milky white tinged with blue to a light sky blue, always very pale. Their hair is silvery white or a fine ginger-like polished brass, and their eyes are an iridescent blue. They commonly have a pair of teeth in their upper jaw, which are long enough to extend past their upper lip, which is a trait that Storm Giants do not have. Cloud Giants wear no armour unless they are going into serious battle with a group of other giants or a flight of dragons. They normally dress in clothing made of the finest materials available and wear fabulous jewellery. Many of the giants consider their appearance an indication of their status and their station. The more jewellery and the better the clothes, the more important the giant. It is common for a Cloud Giant to wear magical protection in the form of rings, amulets, braces and cloaks. They also highly prize circlets that enhance their intellect and all manner of high quality enchanted musical instruments. They are very gifted musical artists, much like Storm Giants. Cloud Giants have their species' remarkable immunity to diseases. They are extremely hardy, enjoy good health for up to 400 years of life. They have an acute sense of smell, granting them advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on smell. They have enhanced vision that allows them to see through fog, mist and cloud as if it was not even there. Although a Cloud Giant has the same life expectancy of a dwarf, they develop at a different rate and have very different cultures. While a dwarf is considered young until the age of 50, they actually fully mature long before then, while a Cloud Giant actually does take that long to grow to full maturity. So they are toddlers at the age of 10, children at the age of 25, and teenagers at the age of 40. The dietary requirement of a fully grown Cloud Giant are proportionate to their size, so they eat 16 times the amount a human would, and unlike many other giants, they are very particular about what foods they eat, but much more on that later. Even without magical enhancement, they have a natural armor class of 14 thanks to thick skin, dense musculature and reasonable agility for a creature so large. They have a strength of 27, which is sufficient to toss a 600-pound rock with ease. At a close range of 60 feet, the boulder is plus 12 to hit, and even at a range of 240 feet, they simply roll with disadvantage on the attack roll while still adding their plus 12 to hit, so they're very good at throwing big rocks. The impact does 4d10 plus 8 bludgeoning damage. Cloud Giants prefer to carry a massive Morning Star into combat because it was the weapon preferred by their progenitor, the first of their kind, Nikias, the son of the god Anam Allfather and his minor demigod wife, Othea. More on Nikias later in this video. The Morning Star has a 10-foot reach, is plus 12 to hit and does 3d8 plus 8 piercing damage, and they can swing that twice per round. I would certainly give that weapon some enhancements and enchantments and give a skilled Cloud Giant fighters some more combat moves that take full advantage of their enormous size and mobility. For example, allow them to spend both their attack options to make a sweep attack that requires a saving throw from everyone within 10 foot except the 2 squares directly behind the Cloud Giant. Failure to make a DC 16 dexterity save will see them take 3d8 plus 8 bludgeoning damage and be hurled 1d6 times 10 feet to one side of the giant, taking a further 1d6 bludgeoning damage for every 10 feet that they're thrown and knocked prone when they land. There's more on these sort of combat tactics with a particular type of cloud giant later on. Those who make the saving throw take half damage and are not hurled to the side by the sweeping blow because they've simply leapt over or leapt to the side out of the way of the sweeping Morningstar. They can also make a stomp attack against a single target of large size or smaller, plus 12 to hit, 2d8 plus 8 bludgeoning damage, and the target is stunned for one round unless they make a DC 16 Constitution saving throw. You can borrow some moves from the Incredible Hulk. If the cloud giant is not holding a weapon or a rock, they can clap their hands together or shout so loud that adjacent medium or smaller sized creatures must make a DC 16 Wisdom saving throw or be deafened and knocked prone, save on their turn to end the deafened condition. After a fun discussion on the channel's Discord server this evening, we worked out that a cloud giant could spend both its attack actions for the round to pick up and hurl a fully laden merchant's wagon up to 120 feet at a 10-foot target area. Any being in those spaces would need to make a DC 16 dexterity saving throw to get out of the way and just take 2d10 piercing from shrapnel splash damage. Otherwise, they get clobbered for up to 7d10 plus 10 bludgeoning damage. And to add a little fun, the area is now difficult terrain full of twisted wreckage from the wagon, infuriated chickens, smashed crates and barrels. I doubt very much that the oxen or horses would remain attached to the wagon as it gets hoisted up and thrown with that much force, and there's no way the wagon is going to survive that landing, though you might want to be able to salvage a wheel or two, unless of course you're running a Dukes of Hazzard campaign, in which case the wagon would be just fine. Cloud giants are more common than storm giants. There are at least 1,000 living scattered across locations on the continent, including Faerun, Karatur and Zakara, forming small communities and families that keep in communication with each other and come together in times of crisis to form a very powerful militia capable of dealing with most threats to their race and their world. Cloud giants formed the noble population of the ancient empire of Astoria. They comprise the ruling class of the giants on Toril, as they are much more present day to day than the isolated storm giants. It is the cloud giants who most actively deal with the rising threat from the dragons, and it is the cloud giants who were the key leaders and heroes in the Dragon Wars. That being said, they are far more likely to be in charge rather than in the vanguard of giant forces, and while they certainly do hunt down and kill dragons, it's less of a ritual than it is to frost giants. Cloud giants and fog giants are closely related. Both family lines are descended from Nikias and both share many of his qualities of physical appearance and also his character. Nikias was also one of the largest sons of Anan, and here is an interesting insight into giant culture, because Nikias was actually taller than Vilmos, the father of the storm giants, and in the ordning of the giants, how tall a giant is plays a large part in their overall rank among their kind. So Nikias was taller than all the giants other than Linaxus, the father of all the titans. The cloud giants and fog giants do tend to think of themselves as being at least equal to the storm giants in their potential, and superior when it comes to their rulership of the world of Toril and the governance over all other giants. Nikias wore pure white linen robes and a golden crown. He carried his great pearl-coloured Morningstar like a king's scepter, and he could simply point it and release a high-powered burst of intense steam. Linaxus and Vilmos were his older brothers, while Masood, Obadiah, Otar and Rook, Arno and Julian were his younger brothers, and for a long time he thought Dunmore was one of his younger brothers, but as it turned out he was a half-brother instead. The lineage and relationship through their father was all important to Nikias, because through his father he was half-sibling to the giant gods, Stronmaus, Hyatea, Grolantor, Eolanus, Memnor and Scoraeus. He was likely related to the gods Surtur and Thrym as well, so it's understandable why the divine lineage was so much more important to them, and why there was such a gulf between them and their half-siblings who were not fathered by Anan. This attitude is deeply ingrained in every cloud and fog giant, and they will simply never accept any non-true giant as being as worthy as themselves. It's bigoted, sure, no doubt about it, but it's part of all giant culture and has to be acknowledged as part of their lore. Nikias was given dominion over all of the sky of Toril, and he ruled as a dynast. It's important to note that over 30,000 years ago, the world of Toril was quite a different place, and the divine children of Anam were much more present on the world. So as they grew up, the first true giants interacted with the giant gods as though they were uncles and aunts. Nikias actually won his first floating cloud palace in a bet from his older half-brother Stronmaus. The enormous palace floated over Toril and was the home of Nikias and his children, the first cloud giants. This bastion was a pivotal stronghold and informed much of the tactics of the highly mobile and unpredictable cloud giants in the Thousand-Year War against the dragons. During this conflict, the dragons splintered into different breeds with opposing ethical and political views. Thanks to the fundamental conflict between their gods, and the cloud giants formed relationships with the metallic dragons, which did play a critical role in bringing peace to their two species. But of course, none of them suspected the power of the elves and the dramatic change they would bring with the Draco Rage mythal. After the end of this conflict, Ananth travelled the Outer Planes and returned with a new form of magic he learned in Mechanus, which he taught to Nikias and Vilmos together. This was the origin of rune magic, which is certainly worthy of a video in and of itself. Rune casters use magic and a special alphabet to create runes, which are symbols that possess magical effects that are both powerful and capable of being used multiple times if they're created by high-level casters. It is through the giants that the dwarves learn this art, though they have legends of their own about the origins that are tied into their own religion, and it has become more widespread across the world of Toril as the dwarven population expanded with the Thunder Blessing a couple of hundred years ago. This generation of dwarves from the Thunder Blessing have travelled far and wide and reintroduced a lot of dwarven mystical arts into the world as they're now reaching their 200th year, sort of middle-aged. Nikias' Cloud Palace eventually crashed somewhere in the Anarok Desert region long before the rise of the Netherworld people, and I should add, by the time this cataclysm happened, the runecasters he and his brother had tutored had come to understand most of the secrets of how to create a new cloud giant palace when they established a new centre of learning on the Lake Woe mountain. They put together the last missing steps, and the second generation of cloud palaces soared into the sky. The construction of a cloud palace is an especially complicated endeavour, which was exhausting for all those involved. To begin, it required at least 12 giants working together and using their inherent control over clouds and fog to gather a massive cloud centred over a single runecaster. The waiting runecaster performed a 10-hour ritual involving a rune-inscribed pebble inside a small leather pouch. If he or she was successful, the cloud solidified, and the other runecasters forced the cloud into the sky again. After this, the lead runecaster had to take the leather bag with the runestone and hide it somewhere in the middle of the cloud. Tampering with the sack or the pebble it contained could cause the cloud to crash, and this is the critical weakness of these fortresses. So yeah, don't blame me if you use that against them. The rune required for the creation of the Cloud Palace was the most complicated rune ever discovered by any of the giants, and took more than a year to properly inscribe. Only after the cloud was solidified could construction of the palace begin, which was no different than the construction of any other castle or palace on the ground. And of course they usually incorporated their fabulous gardens of giant flora and fauna inside there as well. Early in the history of the vast before the human rule of that region, a flying cloud castle was defeated in some magical battle. It crashed into the area near the later site of Thindalar and tumbled across the ground, steadily obliterating it as it went, causing ground tremors for a wide area and leaving a trail of destruction, debris, bits of dead cloud giant, and giant treasures were left scattered across the countryside. Dwarves looted much of the treasure, reworking them into their own artworks and earning quite a bit of enmity from the cloud giants as they lost all of their wealth. Closer to the modern era on Faerun, the cloud giant Countess Sansuri resided in a cloud palace named Lin Mal. Likewise, the wizard Zephyros lived in a floating tower. I don't know if he ever actually gave it a name or if people just named it after him. Nikias and the rest of his brothers got caught up in the drama between their parents, and eventually this led to all the brothers being poisoned by Linaxis by mistake in the fortress of Vonenheim, as we've covered in the history of the giants, the heart of Astoria. Nikias died and was buried in a drumlin outside the Vonenheim estate alongside his brothers sometime around say 3,124 years ago, which is about 8 or 9 generations of cloud and fog giants in the past, but remains very important to them. Cloud giants were involved in a civil war amongst themselves thousands of years ago. Much like any other civilization, they fell into fighting amongst themselves in the sudden absence of any outside enemy, as great as the dragons were. The Cloud Giants split into two distinct groups, and the second became the Fog Giants. Fog Giants are a little shorter than Cloud Giants on average, and they're a bit more hairy. They never grow facial hair and have larger, darker eyes. They also tend to be a lot less refined and fussy than the Cloud Giants. Fog Giant settlements are located in remote locations within the marshes, forests, or coast that they've claimed. Clans are made up of 10 to 20 individuals. They are common in the Evermoors and more rarely in the Frost Hills to the north or to the Nether Mountains to the east. Fog Giant males favour going out hunting in pairs or small groups within a dozen miles of their homes. Quite often, since these are groups of Fog Giants who are related and know each other very well, they all tend to have the same alignment, which is bad news in the case of the Fog Giants, as they are the shifty and backstabbing neutral evil versions of the children of Nikias, while Cloud Giants are more evenly split between good and evil individuals. The Fog Giants are a pretty nasty bunch. The area around the Fog Giant settlement will be trapped with deadfalls that they can easily trigger against intruders with thrown rocks. So essentially they just throw a rock, it hits a log and causes a landslide. More traps are set on the regular pathways to their homes and hunting grounds, as these trails are simply too difficult to hide thanks to Fog Giants leaving 8-inch deep footprints. Due to their large size and the proportional amount of food necessary to sustain them, each hunting group requires a large amount of territory to hunt in. These territories are marked along their boundaries with cairns of rock and wood, and the giants become very aggressive when these markers are dismantled or others intrude on their territory, particularly when the hunting is poor. But no matter how bad the hunting is though, no Cloud or Fog Giant would ever eat a humanoid unless they were literally starving to death. They're not like other lesser giantkin. When fighting other Fog Giants, they throw stones or fist fight rather than use weapons. If the dispute is not too serious, it can be settled with arm wrestling match or a game of Quopsy, which is when two giants take turns throwing increasingly large boulders for their opponent to catch. If you remember the scene from Braveheart, that's a perfect example of the sort of competition they have. Fog Giants don't mix well with other races. Though they can trade with those of similar alignment, they can be paid to provide their services. Fog Giants are known to raid the settlements of other races. However, they never raid or antagonize Cloud Giants, who have retained a cordial relationship with them after their civil war. In fact, one can often find one or two Cloud Giants visiting Fog Giant settlements or even joining in one of their hunting parties. They're like their hillbilly cousins. Fog Giants can, like Cloud Giants, be very talented craftspeople. Fog Giants particularly prize their ornate carved clubs made of wood or bone. They're also, they've got one clan in particular that's known for wearing armour crafted from white dragon hides. Above all other things though, Fog Giants treasure silver. They'll trade for silver where nothing else will convince them. And traditionally young males are not allowed to take a mate until they've claimed a large silver ornament of their own. Kind of like a trophy shield or something really quite large and outlandish. It's very much a part of their marriage ceremonies and things like that, so it's kind of hard to describe. They'll even work together in groups, young males work in groups to get a particularly large trophy of silver for one particular male who's courting another female. Fog Giants prefer to eat hooved animals, and unfortunately this also includes centaurs, cooking their own animals over a spit over a fire. They have a strong taste for sweets and enjoy confections and sweet immensely, just as Cloud Giants do. They also enjoy drinking large amounts of alcohol, although they don't brew or distill their own drinks, which is how most other races often deal with Cloud and Fog Giants. They will attend meetings with smaller races in order to ensure a steady supply of fine wine, mead and ale. They also often get a taste for smoking fresh milkweed pods in pipes as well. Fog and Cloud Giants both speak the same dialect of Jotun called Jotunskei, and the Fog Giants have their own dialect called Jotun Scroll, which is it's mostly just slang and accents on top of the Jotunskei that other giants can't understand, but Cloud Giants have no problem with. Cloud Giants rank 3rd in the Ordning, while Fog Giants rank 4th. By comparison, Cloud Giants live very proud and extravagant lives high above the world. They place much value in treasure, not just in the value of the raw materials, but the artistry and beauty of the pieces. They will pay for the services of bards and seek out exotic and spectacular pets and curiosities to stock their abodes, and this includes beautiful people. They most likely have such acquisitions to stir up gossip and envy among their peers. The more envy and gossip, the better. The Cloud Giant earns its place in the Ordning by the treasure it accumulates, the wealth it wears, and the gifts it bestows on other Cloud Giants. However, value is only one part of the assessment. The extravagances a Cloud Giant wears or places about its home must also be beautiful and wondrous. Sacks of gold or gems are worth less to the Cloud Giant than the jewellery that might be crafted from those materials. Creating treasures that bring esteem to a Cloud Giant's household is the entire point. In the long tradition of the children of Decadence and Vilmos, Cloud Giants take the practice and learning of magic to be a cultural heritage. Thus they will all learn spell and ritual casting from an early age. Some of them are more talented at it than others. Also, they do have a divine heritage, even somewhat diluted over the last 30,000 years. Some Cloud Giants have the power to manipulate the sky and the air of which they are granted some dominion. Thus, there is the official common Cloud Giant stat block, but there is also the elemental variant Cloud Giant stat block from the Storm King's Thunder and the specialist high challenge rating Cloud Giant Smiling One from Volo's Guide to Monsters on page 146 and Storm King's Thunder on page 245. All Cloud Giants have an affinity for the giant god Memnor the Trickster, so they value cleverness, trickery, pranks, ambush, and generally being sly as part of what they call Mart, which is the giant equivalent of goodness, honour, or correct behaviour. They differ from humans in their concept of good and evil. Evil for them is morgue behaviour, which in the case of Cloud Giants is being stupid, getting caught, being poor, being controlled by others, and so on. This is where the Smiling Ones come in. Cloud Giants aren't, on the whole, religious people. They tolerate many conflicting areas about their patron deity Memnor, and the Smiling Ones strain that tolerance somewhat. Smiling Ones are Cloud Giants who honour and emulate Memnor's craftiness and deceit above all else. They are tricksters supreme who use sleight of hand, deception, misdirection, and magic in their pursuit of wealth. They also possess a flair for unpredictability and a wicked sense of humour. While Cloud Giants expect a certain amount of trickery and deceit in their dealings with others of their own kind, Smiling Ones overstep the bounds of that decorum with their behaviour, doing and saying things that nobler Cloud Giants consider beneath the dignity of their kind. Smiling Ones take the name from their strange two-faced masks that they wear. The smiling half of the face often looks more like a smirk or a triumphant sneer than a pleasant grin. The frowning half represents the displeasure Smiling Ones feel about their place in the Ordning and being second to the Storm Giants, which is, well, it's echoed amongst the rest of their kind. The masks serve as symbols of their devotion, but they also conceal the mask wearer's true facial expressions. The most notable special ability of the Smiling Ones is their power to polymorph into any beast or humanoid they have seen, or back into their true form, including any equipment they're wearing, and they retain their original stats, aside from their size obviously, in any form that they take. They not only have the innate spellcasting powers of all Cloud Giants, but also learn spellcasting on top of that from the bardic style of magecraft, so they have mainly additional healing and illusionary magic. They're Storm Giant bards. Variant Cloud Giants are exactly the same in all regards to other Storm Giants, except they have the following two abilities. Fling allows the giant to throw a small or medium creature within 10 feet of it, so to snatch them and throw them. The target must succeed on a DC 20 dexterity saving throw or be hurled up to 60 feet horizontally in a direction of the giant's choice and land prone, taking 1d8 damage, bludgeoning damage, for every 10 feet thrown, which is higher than the standard 1d6 per 10 feet of simple falling damage, so I imagine there is a lot of impromptu somersaulting, bouncing, and cartwheeling along the ground involved. So you get tossed like a bowling ball. Wind Aura is a magical aura of wind surrounding the giant that it can summon at will. The aura is a 10-foot radius sphere that lasts as long as the giant maintains concentration on it, as if concentrating on a spell. While the aura is in effect, the giant gains +2 bonus to its armor class against ranged weapon attacks, and all open flames within the area are extinguished unless they are magical. Bear in mind that this is only a 10-foot radius sphere of wind, so it doesn't actually surround the Cloud Giant because they're too tall. A regular Cloud Giant has an armor class of 14 and an average of 200 hit points, a speed of 40 feet per round, strength of 27, Dexterity of 10, Constitution of 22, Intelligence of 12, Wisdom of 16, and a Charisma of 16. They have a keen sense of smell, as mentioned. They have a +7 bonus to Insight and Perception, Passive Perception of 17, innate spell casting using their Charisma bonus. At will they can cast Detect Magic, Fog, Cloud, and Light. 3 times per day they can cast Featherfall, Fly, Misty Step, and Telekinesis, while once per day they can cast Control Weather and Gaseous Form. They have a challenge rating of 9, as does the variant with the wind powers, so I generally give all Cloud Giants those sort of wind powers anyway. On their mountain summits and solid clouds, Cloud Giants keep extraordinary gardens. Grapes as big as apples grow there, along with apples the size of pumpkins and pumpkins the size of wagons. From the errant seeds of these gardens, tales of cottage-sized produce and magical beanstalks are spread in the mortal realm. They have a very fine taste for exceptionally high quality foods, so a banquet in a Storm Giant's palace is truly something legendary. As humanoid nobles keep an eyrie of hunting hawks, so do the Cloud Giants keep griffins, heritons, and wyverns as their own flying beasts of prey. Some creatures also patrol the Cloud Giants' garden by night, along with trained predators such as owlbears and lions. Particularly powerful and influential, Cloud Giants keep celestial lions as pets. Cloud Giants of a more, shall we say, anti-little people mindset, whose family heritage was heavily involved in the war against the dragons, mastered the art of breeding and riding some of the mightiest drakes. They also kept and bred giant birds and produced, eventually, the rock species. They were the only birds large enough to carry a Cloud Giant into battle in the sky. These days, almost all rocks are wild. Almost all. Many very powerful artifacts carried by giant warriors of that age now sit as dusty relics in the grand palaces of the decadent Cloud Giants of the modern age. If you like the lore in this video, don't forget to watch the entire remastered Giant series for more information on their history, their pantheon, their culture, and the individual breeds of their kind. Please hit the like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you like what I do, check out my Patreon for some exclusive content and all the full scripts for these videos, buy some merchandise on Teespring, wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.